My name is Heather Hobbs, and I want to shout my story because my children have been the biggest blessing in my life, and I think that every person should know the great blessing that children can be. So growing up, I was raised in a very busy life. My mom moved us a lot, and I really just wanted to be anywhere but with my family. I was dating a man when I was 18, and he had just enlisted in the Army. And this particular man, he was very charming, very kind and polite, and so he said, well, we can just get married and you can be a legal adult and be away from your family, and we'll go to Germany and go around the world. It'll be fun. And I said yes, because 18, you don't make the best decisions. He was having relations with 10 other women, German national women, and obviously I was a little bit disgusted by that. And so when he came home, I told him I was going to go back and that I was done and I'm not going to participate in this. And at that time, he ended up beating me to the point where I had to go to the ICU. His chain of command separated us, which left me in this village alone with no vehicle, transport, phone, or any kind of communication, and had him confined to the base working extra duty. And they said that I had to go to marriage counseling and they wouldn't send me back. I just wasn't expecting him to just show up. And so when I opened the door, he forced his way into the house that I was in. And at that point, it was one of the most difficult times in my life. And he had spent 3 days raping and torturing me. And eventually, a German national heard me on the third day and did call the German police. And so I went to the hospital, and he told everybody that he found me that way. I felt like I was having to prove myself, even though I was injured enough to be in the hospital and was covered in blood and bruises and everything else. He said, but it's okay. I'm really against abortion, but in your situation, you know, it's justified and we can do it tomorrow. So I ended up just telling him I just couldn't do this right now. I need to just think and process everything. So he did, at another time, become violent again and came back and tried to end her life by force. And I think that was the moment where I had kind of went from teetering to still kind of considering maybe abortion was the right answer, to when he was strangling me and I started to go unconscious. I had that moment of, I want to protect my child. And right before I passed out, I felt her kick for the first time. So when I woke up, I was so scared she was dead. And I thought about it after. How sad is it that I didn't value the life of my child until someone else almost killed her? So when I woke up and all of these variables were coming into play, I knew I had to find a way back to America. I knew I had to get home. When I got back to America, I had actually sworn off men in general. I was very determined to stay away from boys as I thought of it back then. And I was content with my daughter. She was my world. She was and is still the happiest, sweetest, most empathetic human being I've ever met. So I never really thought of being with somebody, but of course God's really funny when you make up your mind on something. He's kind of got his joke up there like, oh, here, that's a cute plan you have. Let me go ahead and give you my plan. I met my husband at church and we did get married, and pretty much immediately got pregnant with my second. I ended up getting really, really sick, and I went in and they said, well, you're septic, and so you must have miscarried and the baby's just not passing, so we need to do a D&C. I just said, I really need to see an ultrasound for myself first. And when they did it, he wasn't just alive. He was having like a whole dance party in there. He was just moving around like crazy. And I remember, well, that's not a dead baby. And they were like, huh, yeah, okay, good thing we didn't do that. They finally said, well, you know what? Something's wrong with this baby. We just need to trust your body. It doesn't like this pregnancy. We'll just have an abortion. You're still within the range of having one. And again, it's just like, why does everybody want me to have abortions all the time? And so I found another doctor, and that doctor found out within like 48 hours that I had gallstones, which caused acute pancreatitis because it had went untreated. So they said, well, we can keep you pregnant and keep giving you antibiotics, and you can deal with it as long as you can, or we can deliver him now and he probably won't make it. So being as stubborn as I am, I said, we're gonna go ahead and keep dealing with these terrible gallstones. And he ended up being born on my birthday. So I always tell him he was the best present God ever gave me. My third child, Gideon, he is really a modern miracle. So Gideon was like the perfect pregnancy for the first time, and everything was really great. And then around 23 weeks or so, I started just feeling really off, and my heart was racing randomly, and I was swelling everywhere. And at this time, I had my friend as my OBGYN, so she did an ultrasound, and all you could see was this black circle within his abdomen on the ultrasound. He said it was called a meconium pseudocyst, which is a really fancy medical word for his intestines have exploded in his body, and his body has built a calcified shell around it to protect the rest of his body, and it's a 1 in a billion occurrence, and these babies always die. The high-risk OBGYNs that said he's just not gonna make it, and there's no point in trying, and there's nobody that's done it before, and it's safer for you, and you have other children to consider. And at this point, I was extremely, very strongly pro-life without exceptions, to the point to where I think I was just a little bit angry. And I said, no. If I die, I die. That's God's plan. When Gideon was born, he was purplish, blackish, reddish, just a whole plethora of, looked like he was dead. He wasn't crying, he wasn't moving. And they took him away, and they wouldn't tell me how he was doing. And eventually, I threw such a fit. And so they finally brought a whole team of residents and pediatric surgeons, and everybody's like, we just can't do it. He won't live. He's gonna pass away peacefully. They usually die within 24 hours. The longest one was 48 hours. So you should just take the time to hold his hand or be close by. And I said, no, that's not acceptable. That's not your job. It's not what you swore an oath to try to save lives. You can't just let him die. And I finally got a really sweet surgeon. She was one of the top on the West Coast. And she said, I don't want to give you false hope, but I'll try. It was so amazing for my testimony and my faith in God, because you could just watch his labs improve, his heart rate improve, just like you could see that people around the world were praying for him, and it was having an actual response. His body was actually responding. And it was amazing because God used Gideon to help soften the hearts of a lot of medical professionals in a very secular focused hospital. There are nurses in the NICU who started believing in God or went back to their faith because of him. His own surgeon ended up saying that she had to acknowledge that there was some kind of greater power because she can't explain Gideon other than a miracle. So collectively, in his first year and a half of life, he was in hospital 15 months, and he had 13 surgeries. But he's the sweetest little soul, and I think it came from being in that hospital all the time, being around adults all the time. He's very well spoken and very empathetic to others who are suffering. So Gideon suffered a great deal, and that was actually one of the biggest plays the hospital had to appeal to my emotions as a mother when he was on life support. And they continually told me that I was being cruel for making him suffer, that I wouldn't just let him pass away peacefully. And I said, I knew that I could never live with myself if I didn't even give him the chance to fight. I would always wonder, what if? What if he was the one that made it? What if he was the one that got through it and I cut that short because I was too scared? I was too scared of possibly hurting and losing him. So my journey now is what I call just saying yes to God. When He gives me an opportunity to help serve in one way or another, I just say yes. I take my children when I feel it is an appropriate thing. They travel the country with me. They travel the state that we reside in now. They go and interact with people, and they are a testament themselves to everyone to see these really sweet, smart children that are doing great things, and to think that doctors wanted them dead. That is my life now. My life completely revolves around helping other people and showing my children how to help other people. And all of that came with saying no to abortion.